And welcome to another weekly discussion on the Michigan Sports Truth podcast on YouTube. I'm Taylor Phillips, along with Ed Smith, also broadcast live on Twitch. Got just three teams to cover: the Pistons, Tigers, and Michigan Wolverines football. So, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, the Pistons had already agreed with new head coach Monty Williams on a 6-year, $78.5 million contract with incentives that could push it to over $100 million. So Tom Gores laid out all the money on the table for Monty Williams after he denied it. After he denied that job, and that really gave Monty Williams second thoughts. And he was great with the Suns too.
He really was. He took the Suns, if you all remember, from a 19-win team to in just 2 years' time to the NBA Finals. Then a year after that, he took him to 60-plus wins in a season. He rightfully deserved the Coach of the Year honors that he was awarded for that year. And honestly, when you first heard his name become available, it was quite obviously shock. First and foremost, shock at why would the Madishiba, the new owner of the team, would do such a thing so hastily. Why would he go full Tony Khan on this? But still, you never overlook a gift horse in the mouth. So this is what it's basically what the Pistons did here. Um, First and foremost, it was about a couple weeks prior when Monty Williams decided to initially decline any type of conversation or meeting. Rather, a formal offer had not been yet, presented yet. But then things changed over Memorial Day weekend. I'm finding this out. This is courtesy of the Athletic. Um, Williams was still available. There was a meeting in Los Angeles between Tom Gores, I believe Art Tellem, Troy Weaver, among others. And eventually the conversation came back to let's try Monty again. And what happened this time around was the money was substantially more this time around than what was even reported for the first time around when uh, it was heard that the Pistons had reached out to Williams, and that he was, and then they were then turned down. So this time around, obviously, you see the terms and conditions of the details. He's making what 13 million or so a year. Obviously, he's the highest paid coach, and not just the NBA. He's one of the highest, officially now, one of the highest paid coaches in sports history. Like outside of NFL coaches, it's very rare to see someone get paid this type of money for a head coaching job. And remember, this is for a team that is coming off of 16 wins themselves. So, granted, they do have promising young future with the talent in Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, but it's still ways to go. You want to establish a confidence, you want to establish a culture. Um, and so to do that, you got to start up top. And we're doing that with the right head coaching hire and someone in Monty Williams, who, again, according again to this Athletic article, did mention Detroit as one of the teams he would consider uh, coaching for in this upcoming season. Because remember, he was leaning towards taking a year off entirely because as a result of his termination, his severance package, if you will, the Suns are going to be owing him about $21 million over the next 3 years. So, in that instance, why wouldn't you want to, sit back and kick your feet up for a year or so? But the Pistons, and more specifically Tom Gores, they came back with an offer that he couldn't refuse. All this came together, like I mentioned, over Memorial Day weekend, and by, you know, that day, things were agreed to. The terms were fine. And a few days later, we saw the reports come out, and now here we are. Monty Williams is your new coach. And I think this is like the best thing you could possibly ask for the poor Jaden and Ivy and Cade Cunningham specifically, because one of the things that Williams is known for with his coaching style, with the way he helps develop young players, is how well guards develop under his watch. Most notably would be the prime example of Chris Paul when he first started out in the league in New Orleans. He credits that so much with his ascension to this into the type of player, the type of superstar that he became. That, as you saw, even later down near the twilight of his career, he decided to go to Phoenix to what? Because Monty Williams was there. So that's the type of connection that you want. If you can establish with your players, it not only creates uh, that type of connection, it also potentially creates um, an attraction for free agents or other players to say, hey, I may want to consider Detroit as an option now. If Monty Williams wants to go there, maybe I want to go there as well. So it's about as a win-win of a hire as you could ever ask for. And if you're the Pistons, if you're Cade, if you're Ivy, if you're Duran, if you're pretty much anyone involved with the team or the franchise in general, this was as great a news as you could possibly hope for.
Yeah,
Especially after the lottery was such a disaster.
yeah. Anna Q says, "Hey everyone," and
Hello,
yeah,
Anna.
if Monty Williams can do great with the Suns, he can do great with the Pistons. Think
Yeah,
about
because you
that.
see, you can see similar developments there. You can see Kate Cunningham or Jaden Ivey can be that type of direction, or to create that connection that we saw with Chris Paul and Devin Booker in Phoenix, for example.
Yeah. So let's see what happens the upcoming season, and yeah, hopefully the Pistons improve record wise.
Honestly,
So
I'm not going to be expecting playoffs. I'm not even expecting fighting for the play-in. If you can give me 30, 35 wins, if you can give me a 20 plus win improvement over what you did this past season, I would consider that a win in my book. With the Suns
yeah,
mistake could be our gain, and I'm all for it.
yep, and the Suns, yeah, it's sad for Suns fan that they fired him, but Anna Hughes says she knew Monty wasn't going to be unemployed for long, and so she
Yeah,
wished
when
him good
he
luck in
the moment
Detroit.
he became
Yes, thank you.
available, he was immediately the best head coach target available. And kudos to the Pistons. They stuck to their guns, they did their due diligence, and they got their guy.
Yeah, they did. So, so before we get to Michigan Wolverines football, Tigers Weekly, they salvaged one game against the Texas Rangers at home last week, and then they get swept by the White Sox in Chicago.
Hmm.
And before we get to our upcoming games, the Tigers' offense just couldn't get anything going in that first game against Texas, and then they got their offense going a little bit in the last two games, but they finally got a win at 3-2 against the Texas Rangers. Alex Lang was continuing to be a rock star. Today, not so much. Got himself in a bases loaded jam and gave up a walk off grand slam to Jake Berger earlier today in Chicago to cap off the White Sox sweep of the Tigers. But
Yeah.
yeah, everyone gets into bumps in the road, and unfortunately, it happened to Alex Lang and the Tigers. I know he's better than that, but but
Well, in terms of bumps in the road, this couldn't have come at a worse time for the Tigers. If we want to talk about with the momentum that they've been on lately, because this week they also had to deal with the fact that Alex Faedo, Eduardo Rodriguez, and Riley Green had to be moved to the IL for various of injuries. Erod, I think he was dealing with a finger injury. Green, he had a fibula issue as a result of him trying to make a dive out, making a catch out in the outfield. I believe it was near that wall, the new padding that they put out in center field or left, right center. So the impact of that caused, you know, not just the wall, but how he fell to the ground. It caused the injury itself. So that's a major loss because you saw how he was performing, how he was starting to get better and much improved at with his at bats. Of course, with Rodriguez, it goes without saying of how valuable he is in more ways than one to the team. So seeing him go down was bad timing. And then, to add even more, if you want to say insult to injury or things come in threes, now Faedo goes hurt. So that was like, oof. Could you pick the better time to have this happen to you?
hmm, yeah, hopefully Tarek Skubal makes his recovery. But you don't want to rush it. You don't want to rush Casey Mize either.
Well, don't get me started on Nyes. I think he unfortunately maybe it's close to his lost cause already, and I hate to say it.
Yeah, yeah, unfortunately so, and
Yeah,
that's
and yet despite all that, they're still tied for second in the division, and they're only 3.5 games back of Minnesota.
yeah, they're tied for second except in winning percentage. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so the Cleveland Guardians have a slightly higher winning percentage than the Detroit Tigers, and I'm
Yeah.
checking on my MLB app right about now. The Guardians at 458 winning percentage, the Tigers 456.
hmm So right, even though the amount of games back is the same, like you said, it still comes down to percentage at the end of the day.
Yep. The Tigers go to Philadelphia to play the Phillies at Citizens Bank Park
Mm.
ballpark. Phillies are 27-22, fourth in the NL East. And then the Tigers have Thursday off and then return home to play the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are 35-25, just a half game back of the NL West leading Los Angeles Dodgers, who are 35
Mm.
and 24. So
So a pair
Phil-
of
Phillies are kind of a record type match for the Tigers, but the Diamondbacks will be a bit more of a challenge at home.
yeah, but Philly is a clear better team from top to bottom. They are the defending NL National League champions. They won the World
Yes.
Series last year. So if you're Detroit, if you could get a game out of that series, I would consider that a win in more ways than one. Um, After that, what you get to deal with the Diamondbacks, who you mentioned their record, you mentioned the division that they're in. By nature, they're going to be a very tough team to handle, regardless if it's at home or not. So, tough series, tough pair of series coming up, which is why it's essential and crucial to notch as many wins as you could have against the White Sox for this series. But hey, you're still in second place. What else can you do?
Well, sort of is in second
You know what
place
I mean.
again.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean. It's I
yeah.
just look at the I
Tied
just look
well,
at the
tied for
games back.
second in terms of
Yeah, the
games
games back.
back,
Yeah, that's why
but
I'm just compare that.
yeah,
So
but the record and winning percentage separate that. That's
sure.
those are the tiebreakers. So, Michigan Wolverines football head coach Jim Harbaugh, as
hmm
we found out about Glenn Schembechler, Harbaugh caught the mistake, and was it really just the tweets that Glenn Schembechler liked? Was that the only uh, problem that Jim Harbaugh spotted, or was it
Well,
another one?
it wasn't so much what Jim Harbaugh was spotted. He was just mainly so commenting on his thoughts or giving his thoughts on what did he find out or how did he find out, what was his reaction to this whole mess of things. He mentioned that yes, while he knew Glenn for a long time, he did say as a program that's not who we are. There are no sacred cows. So um, quite noting, quite interesting, I would say, to hear Harbaugh say that, given his proximity to the Schembechler family in general. But he's absolutely right. You can't have any sacred cows in any type of situation where you've already gone through a backlash of bad negativity for your school and university and your football team, primarily involving the person in question's family. So this is already adding gasoline on top of a bad fire. So knowing that, and also he mentioned that the vetting company that had been used in this process apparently did their proper, or did their background check, and apparently for them no red flags came up on his social media end, which is to me concerning and telling, which is on either their front, on the vetting company's part, or on Michigan's, or on the university's part, because this seems in some ways like a possible deflection, like a passing of the buck of sorts. It's where somewhere someone at some department did not do their due diligence in terms of properly vetting and doing a true background check on what Schembechler was saying, or whether what his views were aligned were, or how his social media activity could look. Because remember, he was hired to be a key member of recruiting. And how is this going to look to recruit, specifically black recruits in cities like Detroit, for example, who is a very vital pipeline to your talent and to your team. So that was beyond a messy situation to explain for obvious reasons, a myriad of reasons. I'm just glad that he's gone as quickly as possible. But yeah, it's just an example of something they need to learn from for next time. Obviously, you don't believe there is no next time, but it's just a learning lesson on what not to do. And if it is true that you're dealing with this vetting company, hey, sort your process out better.
Yeah, yeah, sort it out indeed. So I, I believe that's probably the end of the developing story, but I could be wrong. I'm still gonna, at least I'm still gonna keep my eyes on
Mm-hmm.
on stuff like this. We're probably both gonna get some, well, just something may come up. Who knows?
Whatever development comes next, we'll be sure to keep it covered.
Yep. Um, just just to let you know, we cover pro and college teams in our state: Tigers, Lions, Red Wings, Pistons, Wolverines, and Spartans primarily,
Mm-hmm.
and everywhere in the state of Michigan.
Yep.
So Anna, thank you for asking, and we come to our final segment: what we've learned in terms of what we've talked about tonight. Ed, go ahead.
That's what we talked about tonight. What we learned that Tom Goris, for better or worse, he is an owner that wants to do. You can't say he doesn't try, for lack of a better word. He tries his due diligence to want to provide his fans with a winner, or fans of his teams with a winner. So, props to
He
him
cashed
for
in.
trying. Yeah, props to him and for Troy Weaver as well, because this should be as much of kudos to him as it is for Goris. So we learned
Teamwork,
that
baby.
we learned that the Pistons, have a spark that they need for some much needed popularity boost in this town.
All right, yes, and that's the primary topic that we've covered on the weekly discussion edition on YouTube on the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Michigan_Truth and like its Facebook page. Subscribe to its YouTube channel, the Michigan Sports Truth at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast for our weekly discussion episodes. Like our videos and turn on notifications. Enable them. Also on my Twitch, DT2Phillips1984. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, and subscribe to me on YouTube at DT2Phillips. Also follow Ed Smith on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at EdSmith313. Shoutouts go to Athletico Physical Therapy on Woodward and Ferndale, Baldwin Family Healthcare of Cadillac, Cadillac Nutrition. Download the Engage app to place an order for an iced or hot protein coffee, energy tea, or protein or post-workout shake. Cali Tickets, 877-225-8425. Mark Goldman is there. He'll take care of your tickets needs. Also visit CaliTickets.com. Creative Embroidery of Cadillac for designing the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast logo on my long sleeve shirt and t-shirt. Cuts by Melanie in Lake City. Thank you, Melanie Rosted, for giving me this fine haircut. The Edo Ramen House in Royal Oak, rated Detroit's best Japanese restaurant for consecutive years. Call 248-556-5775 or visit EdoRamenHouse.com. Also follow them on Instagram at Edo Ramen House. Delicious sushi and Filipino food. The all-new Kalkaska Battlers of the Michigan Independence Hockey League. Let's Roll With It rolled ice cream in Cadillac, now branded with the Food Mafia. Northern Star Event Rentals in Cadillac. Call Heather Krzyzewski at 231-884-8195 and like their Facebook page. The Misaki Golf Club in Lake City, the Red Ox Tavern in Auburn Hills, Samaritas Senior Living in Cadillac, United Food Service Solutions of Grand Ledge, Michigan, and Young Yoga and Fitness in Traverse City. We'll be back next week, Sunday night at 9:30. Till then, for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. And remember, we observe Michigan sports truth, Michigan sports, and we detect the truth. hit them with a hind, everybody. We close our case. Power
Take
to the
care
people.
and stay safe. Take care, stay safe, everyone.
Yep.